After a mediocre 2006 season, Juan Pablo Montoya was fired from Team McLaren following 0 wins plus 5 DNFs, and then went to NASCAR 1 year later. During the second half, Pedro de la Rosa replaced Montoya and also went winless, having decent results, including his lone podium finish in his F1 career in Hungary. While Rosa was behind the wheel at McLaren, a young rising star by the name of Lewis Hamilton was making a name for himself in the GP2 racing division. Considering Hamilton being wickedly consistent and fast and winning races, McLaren would take notice, having him in the racing team's driver lineup for a potential ride for the 2007 season. And in late September, the decision was finally made. Out of drivers Pedro de la Rosa and Gary Perfett, Lewis Hamilton was the chosen one to race alongside Fernando Alonso at the racing team's organization. So, a two-time and reigning series champion, partnering up with a 22-year-old rookie straight from the ground up, making his Formula One Series debut. This should be very interesting, and this is the story of Lewis Hamilton's sensational rookie year. Let's begin. In the season opener in Australia, Hamilton proved to the world and Team McLaren that he can drive a Formula One car more of a pro rather than a rookie. He led 4 laps in the Grand Prix, finishing inside the podium with a third-place effort. The second race of the season would take place in Malaysia, where Hamilton's teammate, Alonso, dominated. Leading the most laps of 52, Alonso cruised to victory. As for Lewis Hamilton, he led for only 2 laps out front, finishing runner-up to the defending series champion when the race concluded. Then in Bahrain, Hamilton kept this podium finish streak going, considering another runner-up finish, this time to Team Ferrari's Felipe Massa, who led most of the day. This type of performance from the two drivers carried over into the Grand Prix of Spain in Catalonia. Massa led the most laps, winning with ease, while Lewis Hamilton settled for second after leading 8 laps out front. After the event, up next was the challenging and demanding Monaco circuit, where passing is extremely difficult. Instead of feeling anxious, Hamilton felt motivated. At the end of the qualifying session, the McLaren duo would line up 1-2 on the grid, with Alonso securing pole position. On race day, Alonso led from the start until he had to make a scheduled pit stop on lap 26. This opened the door for Hamilton to take the lead, but for only 3 laps. Shortly after, it was Hamilton's turn to box in, giving the lead back to his fellow McLaren teammate. Alonso gave up the lead on lap 50, which gave Hamilton the lead once more, which only lasted 2 laps. Alonso was back in first on the 53rd lap and would stay there until the checkers flew, winning the Monaco Grand Prix for the second year in a row. Hamilton finished in second, wondering what could have been. With Monaco out of the way, Hamilton and the team had their minds focused on winning big in the Canadian Grand Prix at the circuit Gilles-Villeneuve. This circuit is where Hamilton would be the fastest of the fast, clocking in the fastest lap time during qualifying time trials, earning his first F1 pole award. But it doesn't stop there. Come race day, Hamilton literally had the fastest car in the field, considering he was the one that led the most laps in the Canadian Grand Prix with 67. And guess what? At the end of the race, he actually claimed the checkered flag for the first time in his Formula One career, in just his 6th appearance. Hamilton continued to dominate in winning fashion at the final Grand Prix at Indianapolis. The rookie sensation qualified on pole, led the most laps, and claimed win number 2 in Formula One at one of the greatest and richest racetracks in the world. Hamilton's streak of podium finishes transferred over to the French Grand Prix, as well as the British Grand Prix, at his home turf of Silverstone. Speaking of Silverstone, he won the pole position and did lead 15 laps, but at the race's conclusion, he would come across the line in third behind Alonso and Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen. Nürburgring race weekend proved to be somewhat decent for Hamilton, qualifying on the grid 10th, finishing 9th, 1 lap down. It didn't help that he failed to score a point due to finishing outside the top 8. Although he immediately redeemed himself at the Hungarian Grand Prix, he qualified on pole, led every single lap en route to career win number 3. Having to start the Turkish Grand Prix in second, leading just 1 lap, Hamilton wheeled his McLaren to a 5th place finish. Then in Monza, he qualified and finished the Italian Grand Prix in second. His teammate, Fernando Alonso, dominated the Grand Prix, leading a total number of 48 laps and won the thing. With Alonso's win, he was closing in on his fellow teammate in the championship standings, 3 points behind. Hamilton also had to be on the lookout for Kimi Räikkönen, who is also having a stellar season, who is 18 points back up to this point. With only 4 races remaining, it was for all the marbles. Hamilton's objective is to maintain the points lead and not screw up upon any circumstances. The Ferraris proved to be unbeatable in the Grand Prix of Belgium in Spa. Räikkönen led 42 laps en route to a win. Felipe Massa, who was also in contention for a championship, finished runner-up after leading for 2 laps. They were followed by the McLarens of Alonso and Hamilton, who came home 3rd and 4th. Ironic, they all finished 1, 2, 3, and 4, considering they started the Grand Prix from those positions they finished in. Now, Alonso was only 2 points behind Hamilton, while Räikkönen was gaining, sitting behind the leader by 13 points. Damp, rainy conditions in Mount Fuji proved to be treacherous for the Ferraris and the McLarens. Räikkönen and Massa would have their woes early on. Hamilton and Robert Kubica would make contact and spin, but both were able to keep the cars intact and push on. Alonso would make one slight mistake and crash out. After 67 long laps, the checkered flag flew over winner Lewis Hamilton, who set the fastest lap time, led the most laps, and started the Japanese Grand Prix from pole position. With Hamilton's win and Alonso wrecking out, 12 points was the gap between the two teammates. Räikkönen was now 17 points behind the rookie. Felipe Massa also had to make up a lot of ground, as he trails behind Hamilton by 27 points. Come Shanghai, everyone had their eyes on Hamilton and Räikkönen, considering they were the ones dominating the Chinese Grand Prix. Hamilton led the second most laps, and the weather proved to be quite a challenge. When the rains came, Hamilton decided to stay on warm wets, but when the showers passed and the track was drying up, he realized that the wet tire compounds were not what he needed from there on out. Coming into the pits, he makes a small mishap and slides into the gravel trap and gets stuck in it. The track marshals did what they could to get Hamilton back onto the pavement into the pits, but are struggling to do so. All the McLaren team could do from the pit box was watch in devastation. At that rate, Hamilton climbs out of his car and retires from the race. His first DNF in his career. Spoiler alert, the only DNF in his rookie season. A relieved Räikkönen charged to the checkered flag victorious. Alonso, P2. Massa, P3. Now the standings look like this. Alonso was now 4 points behind Hamilton. Kimi Räikkönen is now 7 points behind. The win and leading the most laps gaining those extra points pay off, and that's their game plan heading into the season finale in Brazil. Felipe Massa is technically in contention for a podium finish of a third or maybe even a second at this point, trailing behind the points leader by 21. Interlagos, Brazil, and 3 drivers are eligible for the 2007 World Championship. Those drivers are the points leader, Lewis Hamilton, his teammate, 2-time and defending champion, Fernando Alonso, and the Iceman, Kimi Räikkönen, who came clutch with the win in Shanghai the previous race. Either one of these 3 can win it in the final 71 laps in the season. Hamilton was clearly the heavy favorite, considering he led the points since Canada. At the end of qualifying, Massa was on pole, followed by Hamilton, Räikkönen, and Fernando Alonso. On race day, tensions were high. As soon as the lights went off, Räikkönen made a charge for the lead and got it, while Hamilton lost 2 positions going downhill. Despite losing spots early on, Hamilton still had the points lead. Passing cars one by one, he still had the championship in his hands. That was until the gearbox died. Thankfully, it was only for a brief moment, as it restarted and woke up again, but now he had a lot of ground and time to make up. Because of Hamilton fading back, Alonso now had the points lead. If he can stay out of trouble and win the race, the championship is his. However, Räikkönen would not have any of it. He made no mistakes and eventually took the lead away from his Ferrari teammate of Massa, cruised to victory lane, and the 2007 championship was his. Hamilton came across the finish line 7th. Finishing in that position and being a lap down wasn't enough to save Lewis, as he would lose the championship by just 1 single point. The same goes for his teammate Alonso, losing the title by a single point, whom crosses the finish line in 3rd place. Massa, who led the most laps in the Grand Prix in his home race, settled for 4th in the final standings, finishing runner-up to his fellow champion teammate coming to the checkers. Lewis Hamilton, so close yet so far. A rookie with a lot of promise and high hopes of winning the title at such a young age, slipped away and were dashed. And it makes many wonder, what if Hamilton hadn't made that rookie mistake in China? What if his gearbox didn't die on him in the final race? What if, in 2007, Lewis Hamilton captured his missing ring?